Welcome to the Berlin Select Board of January 29th. Open session public meetings are subject to being videotaped. Your image and voice may be recorded. We are going to defer the minutes as our administrative assistant is not feeling well. And so the next thing on our agenda is general public comment.
Oh, okay. There's a bit of an echo.
Turn it down. Type or breathe. Huh.
Okay.
All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to, I can hear myself echoing now. Hearings and appointments and presentations, and we've got the Mass Trails Grant Application Letter of Support and request for landowner permission. You all like to come down and read my co-op. You could come up and stay.
I know.
Are you good? Are you good, Scott? Can you see everybody?
Yeah, I can see hands at the table, but I can see you and Peg and Chris.
Okay.
There we go. Look at that.
Okay.
Chris, this is the paperwork that they are requesting be authorized and completed.
Okay. Okay, so would someone like to speak?
Sure. So the landowner permission form is sort of a boilerplate form that they asked to have filled out for all public lands where we may have consultants come out and walk to do site surveys and that kind of thing. So they're not going to do any disturbance or anything like that. It would just be to walk them. So we put on there to include all Berlin, public land, conservation land, all that kind of stuff, just because, especially west of Coburn Road, it's unclear which path it's going to take. So we've asked just that it include all public, Berlin owned land. And then the letter of support, Scott had mentioned at one of our previous meetings that
Yes.
the select board would be willing to sign a letter of support just to include with our application. So, so that's what those two documents are.
So Robin, on the name of the public land on the Mass Trails, what information goes there? Because then it asks for contact person, title of contact person, best means of contact. What goes there?
So I believe that that's a section below where I had filled in.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I left that blank just because I wasn't sure if I assumed it was going to be somebody from the select board that would fill that out. But if you think it should be somebody from the Conservation Commission that's on the Trails Committee, we could do that too.
Well, we usually have,
I know, but it says name of public land. So what is that public land?
So we were just going to have it say something like all, Berlin Town conservation land, or however you want to word it.
I think we should let them fill it out.
If I may, if it is owned by the Conservation Commission, if it's conservation land, then I believe the Conservation Commission should sign that. If it's a mix of town-owned and conservation land, I would say the board could sign that. So I don't know. I can also sign it. You can authorize me to do that. The reason that is left blank is I did not know what to put in terms of parcels of land.
Yeah, we were hoping not to be too specific, just because, like I said, they may be going different paths and whatnot. And so, there's a lot of different parcels. So if we could just make it as high, as overarching as possible, that would be best.
Berlin.
But town-owned
Yeah.
land, town-owned properties.
Yeah.
So who would be the signature? Says land manager. Who
So
is that?
ideally, I would rather have the select board sign on as, the highest group. But I mean, if you want us to sign it, that's fine too. We can do whatever.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I just saw these multiple empty blocks and I'm like, I'm not quite sure that we should sign it without knowing what's going in there.
Well, here it does say, where she asked, I'm supposed to sign, I believe.
So then you're the land
Says
manager.
Land manager.
If we're doing all town-owned land, then as the chair of the select
Right.
board, that is you, Chris.
Okay,
Because the
well,
select board owns
Right,
land
it
now.
should- it should just be somebody who's easy to get in touch with during the day, during the
Yeah.
week.
well then,
So then you can also vote to delegate that authority to me.
okay,
Right, just because if somebody from VHB needs permission to walk a property and they call during the day, they're not gonna get any of us.
Right.
They're not gonna get
Right.
any of you.
I mean, it would be unlikely that you would get like a last minute request for something. I mean, chances are things are gonna be scheduled and known in advance, but.
True, but I can put my cell phone down so they can literally reach me at any time if that's what you.
is your name
prefer.
on this? at
Yes.
all?
It's not, I was waiting to fill it out because I didn't know which direction we would want to go in,
Yeah, okay.
waiting to see what land you were actually referring to.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have any questions on the public landowner permission form?
No, I like the form. I think Kristen's the right person to be on it, and I think a nice Vegas land owned or managed by the town of Berlin.
Brittany, can you hear him or do I need to put up a volume?
That would be helpful, yeah.
We're just tweaking the, your volume, Scott.
So.
Funny, I'm rarely accused of being quiet.
I got that too, so. Mm-hmm.
So if you want me to be the contact, you just need to take a vote delegating that authority to me.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Say something, Scott, because they just turned up your volume.
Oh, I don't have any more questions.
Okay,
Brittany can hear you in the other room. I don't think folks can hear you that well here. Okay,
but we can hear you because you're right in front of us.
all right.
All right, so Scott, would you like to make a motion? Would you like me to?
I will move that we sign the public landover permission form, making Kristen the primary contact, and we approve the letter of support.
Can the letter of support go with just 2 signatures or do we need to hold it for Scott? Do you need 2 or 3?
Majority, it's
Okay.
fine.
Well, and I can get in for a signature. It's just I don't want to be around anyone for long periods of time.
All right, but if we can go with 2, and then what, you'll take it tonight and do something with it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get the application in tonight or tomorrow. Let's do Wednesday.
Okay, then Scott, we'll just go with our 2. So Robin can take it on her way out. Okay,
Okay, so we've got a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Can you do the second one?
Now I am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then Robin, what's the process after this? So you'll get that in.
So we'll get that in by Wednesday, and then I think they decide over like the next month or two, and they'll let us know, if we've been awarded.
Okay,
So we'll keep you posted on that.
I guess you don't have to sign that one.
you need to put the
I need to
date.
Sign that one, the top one, yeah.
Okay. Do you? What is this, the 29th?
So you'll just have to sign over Chris where she signed in the box. That was gonna be Kristen.
Oh, I thought that was me, and then she was gonna put her name up here.
Oh, I can be the contact person and you
Right.
can be the land manager, that works.
Okay, but the form says contact person for public land / land manager.
Right, so I actually think the way that you did it was fine, you
Okay.
signed it, and I'll just fill myself out as the contact person.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, Mean you can't hear me?
Not as good as we can hear.
Oh, I am loud though, that's fine. Right in the face.
All right. Do we want to start, gentlemen in the back, while Kristen signs?
Thank you guys.
Lovely to see you, ladies.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you. so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
See you at the next Concom.
See you.
Wednesday?
No,
Just wait a
Wednesday-
second.
Wednesday next week.
Next Wednesday? Okay.
Come on down.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
But it is. My kids have no respect for the one day they have.
Now remember, please speak clearly, directly into the microphone.
You're rather soft spoken. You may need that microphone a little closer to you.
No, that's fine.
Oh, all right, just checking.
I sat in the back of the room.
So who, did you toss a coin to see who goes first or?
You're gonna do it at the same time.
I'll tell you who's going first. You are, because you were supposed to be on last week's, so you get to go
Well,
first.
that's fine. That's fine. All right. So let's start with some old business. Radios, we were waiting for an install date. Week and a half ago, we had a failure light on our radio system. I called Verizon. Verizon came out, acknowledged the copper phone lines were distorted. Fixed those, but didn't fix the failure light. Fire chief and I, along with the radio company, went to the tower on Taylor Road. Once again, that repeater is down. No power whatsoever. Radio company was then authorized to order a $300 part to see if they can get power back to it. Even if they do and the repeater is wiped from all memory, it is programmed by MS-DOS. The current company does not have a computer that will program MS-DOS. We'll have to search for one. So our radio project may be expedited on phase 2. Because unfortunately, if that repeater's down, it's not just buying a repeater and replacing that one repeater. It's like taking an Apple iPhone and a flip phone and telling them to talk together. It doesn't happen. So we may be in for a rude awakening coming up tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon. Radio company made an appointment for them to come up tomorrow. So I did talk to Allstate Towers. They are in Springfield right now. And our project is coming up to replace the antennas. Part of the issue when we went to the cell site, we thought that our antenna was missing. It is not. We put our drones up, and it is not missing. One of the cell companies decided to put their cell equipment in front of our antenna, which makes our antenna not work at all. So even if the repeater is up and running, we're probably down to about 20 or 30%. Receiving at that site. Plus, he noted a lot of other issues. There's no supports and their locations and their heights. There's quite a few issues with that repeater site. So hopefully we'll know more tomorrow, and maybe back next week. We'll see. All right, so the month of December. The department handled 1,287 calls for service. 26 of those calls were criminal charges, with 22 accidents last month and 7 with injuries, 129 motor vehicle stops, and 40 citations issued. Once again, we hit our 23-year mark of being here. Our original equipment, our Morse Watchman, which logs all of our cell checks, stopped working. We sent it back to the manufacturer. And they said, oh, this one, yeah, we haven't made these in over 10 years and we don't service them. So we got hit with an unexpected $3,328 bill to replace them, which is obviously a state mandate to have. You have cells to do prison checks. Detective Tringo worked with Millbury PD on a case of a larceny at a Volta, $34,000 case. Long story short, high-speed chase, not in Berlin, thankfully. They ended up crashing, I guess, in Millbury. And, rest of Millbury got some, statements out of them, so we were able to go file charges as well. He still has two more pending larceny cases, one at LL Bean, it's just a little over 5,000. And another local larceny around 2,300. Obviously, he's expanded past New England, work on these cases. That's a whole northeast corridor, plan should be going up. And I did attach the ACO report.
Questions?
I have a comment. We're seeing this reoccurring theme of things that are very old that we've kind of patched together over the years that now are starting to break. Would you say that one of the things we should look at for perhaps FY 26 capital is some IT upgrades or some of those other items that maybe are working now, but we kind of should anticipate that they may be failing somewhat in the near future?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is IT, computer related, and sometimes it lasts 10 years, sometimes it lasts 5 years. But I think I do have to have a section on that right over there, 3,500. I think I could have like IT, 3,500. Whether it's, last year was a desktop that we found out that's been operating on Windows 97 in Sergeant's office. And we went to install software, and the software was installed, and the CMP's like, oh, that's good, like Windows 97 in it. And we're like, what? So that's probably a computer we've had since maybe even inception when we got here. Little things like that are starting to pop up.
Well, and it's something we should probably, I just made a note to talk at the department head meeting because we are trying to consolidate data systems within that data system budget. So when it's computer related and things like that, we do have a line item for replacement of older items. And I actually just asked Travis from CM Geeks to give us a list of where we're at with all of the computers. So we can have a further discussion on that piece.
Yes, I know the computer that I use, I got it in 2016, I believe. So, that's actually from Sergeant's office and brought it over. I didn't want to lose anything. I didn't want to lose any of my profiles, so I brought the whole system over to my office. So, it's got some glitches, but still turns on and still does what I need, so.
It's definitely something we will be looking at and talking about more, because I know we're going to be hit with a giant facilities repair and maintenance bill, which is scary, but I don't want to lose sight of some of the IT needs that we have in and out of these buildings as well.
Yeah, we're working with the Neshoba right now for our camera system. Because our camera system is 23 years old, which has been band-aided for the last 6 years. So we are working with Neshoba, hopefully to pick up the cost or get a grant. As they can technically control our cameras, so like the fire days are now black and white. It's a ground issue. Minimal visibility. You can just see if there's trucks out there. You can't make out, oh, there's the Jeep walking in. They're just kind of like blurs on the screen. So stuff like that. We are trying to reach out and use our partners to help pay for it through state grants, which in the package. So that's about anywhere from 80 to 120,000 to change our existing cameras over.
Did we change over a camera at some point?
We have replaced cameras.
Okay.
We've never replaced the data cable in between.
Mhm.
So the data cable is from 1999, which is a lot different than what stuff works on today.
Yeah.
So I think when we put the cameras in the town hall, if I'm not mistaken, just running the data cable was $12,000. $400.
In this building?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So major cost is the labor running all the cables.
Yeah, I think it was just a camera that we replaced, because I remember the conversation.
There's quite a few more that need to be replaced. We actually probably need another at least 6 to 8 more cameras for the building.
Okay.
And I guess my only point in that is not that we want to go on an unnecessary spending spree, but as you're hearing, we have items from the nineties.
Yeah.
I won't tell you where I was in the nineties. I was young. I'm concerned when we look at the long-term picture that, you know, we need to take some of these things into account, because my biggest concern is something going and us having a catastrophic failure because we've been piecing things together. So I think one of the things we can talk about too is coming up with like a long-term IT plan so that doesn't happen.
Scott, do you have any questions for the chief?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, Peg?
No,
Okay.
I know you're off the hook.
She's got
I
too many
usually
things
love
doing
to-
here.
That means I'm gonna make up for it.
Maybe.
Not necessarily. Think positive.
Yes. All right, so for the fire department, the month of December, we saw 81 responses. And we finished out the year, it was a high year for us. We saw about a 2.5% increase in call volume over the previous year, which it's a fairly standard, you know, most departments, that's what you hope to see is nothing more than 2.5%. You can see a reduction, obviously, but we didn't see that. So you have a breakdown in front of you on the calls. The majority of them were EMS related calls, either motor vehicle accidents, a lift assist, or a medical emergency. We had a couple of small incidents during the month of December for smoke in the building or chimney fires that were actually considered fires in the building, is what they're coded as. Fire prevention is broken down in that for the inspections that were done. They remained pretty consistent for the most part for the inspectional services. Activity, I noted on there that our call responses continue to be kind of high. They're still fairly acute. We had 2 pretty serious car accidents on the highway that resulted in what we call a mass casualty incident, where it overwhelmed our resources, where we had to call for about 7 or 8 ambulances. We had severe injuries, and both resulted in entrapment, where we had to extricate patients on the highway. One of the other accidents we saw on the highway was a tractor-trailer truck that tipped over right before exit 67, which messed up traffic. Thank God no one was injured, but it did some damage to the truck and the guardrail. We continue to cover the fire watch detail at Berlin Memorial School. They still believe that by the end of March, a new fire pump will be installed and in service at the facility. So hopefully, knock on wood, that will continue as planned. And by the end of March, we will not be having to do daily details there. For the basketball games that have been going on there, we did have one Saturday in which we needed to cancel games just because I had COVID that kind of went through the department. And reached out to my mutual aid departments. They also had illness in their department as well, so we couldn't get anybody on one of the Saturdays to actually cover the events. We had to cancel the basketball game. We're going to continue to cover these as best as we can as the need arises, and so far for the month of January, those have been covered, and it looks like in the month of February, they'll also be covered. Staffing is still an ongoing issue in the department. December, we did have 21 shifts that were unfilled by any staff at the station. We're trying new staffing models with them and trying to reduce our response times and reliance on mutual aid. With those vacancies that we had, we were still able to cover calls with off-duty people that came in with the call department and stuff. But having 2 people in to be able to send that ambulance immediately is kind of what the standard is that we want to make it to. On that note, I'm happy to report that we have 3 new call firefighters that are joining the department. They've gotten through the hiring process. So at this point, they'll be, they're just going through the treasurer's office to finish their paperwork and stuff, and that way they can start training and start working with us. I also should have another 2 interviews coming up in the next week or 2 with 2 potential new candidates as well. And after that, I'll probably hold off if I do hire those 2, just because with 5 new call firefighters, that's a lot for training and stuff for getting everybody onboarded. But that'll at least give us 5 new people if we make it that far. The month of December, we also spent doing training on cold water rescue and ice rescue deployment with rope systems and stuff, just with cold weather hitting us. Obviously, we don't have too much ice out there, but throughout New England, you've seen a lot of ice water rescues that have occurred just because of the thin ice conditions. So we kind of trained for that. From an EMS standpoint, we worked on the basic life support and advanced life support interface that we do. Just basically when we have to use paramedics at the ALS level is to, how to transition into that and how to handle those calls. Maintenance wise, we had the tires replaced on the ambulances. One of the ambulances had a rear heat pump exchange that had to be replaced because it failed. And the final preventative maintenance that we were doing this fiscal year was done on the ladder truck, so we got that done, which was good. Again, I just want to highlight our home safety program as an initiative that we're doing. We still have interest from people that are out there, and I throw it out every time I come before you, just to remind people if they want to contact John Polino in the Fire Prevention Office or myself, we can schedule that and get those done for people. I'm also going to throw out the need for carbon monoxide and smoke detectors when I sit before you guys, just a reminder for anybody in the public and stuff. We like to see those in the houses, and if you have any questions, please contact us. They should be at least on every level, and if you will, the smoke detector should be in every sleeping area. Continue to work on collaborating with our neighboring departments, kind of working more efficiently with them and in a collaborative effort. There was a new fire chief in the town of Hudson, and I actually have a meeting next week to meet with him and go over initiatives that we have and kind of work together. We transitioned to a new records management system that we're using that's being done through Neshoba Regional Dispatch District. They kind of switched that over through one of their grants that everybody switched to. One of the lags that we have is just an EMS billing where they're trying to catch up with us, just because we made that switch from the previous, if you will, software that we use called the MU-Pro. So the billing company also had to learn on this new program called ESO with us. And it sounds like they also have a delay on their side too, just because they've trained some new people. So they're a couple weeks behind. June and I have been in contact on that. So she's aware that there'll be a lag in our invoices coming in, but it's all being tracked. From an emergency management standpoint, we continue to see the increase in the number of storms that are hitting us this winter. While we haven't seen a large impact from the snow and the ice, the rain and wind has brought about some issues such as basement flooding and the limbs that have come down. And I want to thank the highway department for their efforts on clearing the trees and limbs as well as they have, and collaborating with the police and fire department in clearing the roads and allowing us to respond to emergencies in an efficient manner. Kind of one of the things I want to highlight on that was the fire that we had. Granted, it was at the beginning of this month, but it was an excellent collaboration between all three departments that I think allowed us to actually make a stop on that fire and prevent it from taking the home. I think the last time I was before you, I kind of mentioned that we were probably within a minute of losing the house. And I can honestly say that if you took anybody out of that scenario from the police department, the highway department, or the fire department with the staffing that we had, the potential was real that we probably would not have been able to make that stop. So everything came together on that one. And it was probably about a week before that, we had an EMS call that was kind of the same thing between the staffing on the police department and fire department. We were able to save a life that, again, if our staffing levels weren't where they were, it would have been a tragic outcome in my opinion. And I just want to point out that collaboration between all the departments out there in the field that work together. It's amazing to see, and when things come together like that, it's really kind of nice. The last thing I wanted to mention was on grants. It's grant season for me at the fire department and stuff. I put in for some through MEMA, which is the Massachusetts Emergency Management Association, or agency, excuse me, which hopefully we'll be getting notification of that next week or two. That'll go towards some of the emergency operations center that we have downstairs to upgrade some of the computers and the communications equipment that's in there. One of the ones that just opened up is an assistance to firefighters grant called AFG, and it's through FEMA. And that's one that I'm kind of researching right now to see what equipment we might be able to get through that. It's a very competitive grant across the country. And, I'll update you as we make the decision on what we're going to go for on that. The next one that'll be opening up in the next couple months will be what's called the SAFER grant, which staffing for adequate fire and emergency response basically is what it is. Looking towards the future of increasing our staffing to try to get to 2 people on every shift. It's one of those things that can assist us in doing that if we put in for a couple of positions for that, for 2 firefighters, for example. This grant would pay for it, and over a period of 3 or 4 years, it would reduce the cost from the government and cost shift that back to the community. With the first year or two, the majority of their positions would be paid for. Obviously, in order to do that, there'd have to be a mechanism to actually pay for those positions in the future. But it's one of those things, by applying for it now, it opens it up for the next year that they would award those grants. If we went for it, it would come before you as a board to accept or deny at that point, depending on where our finances were. But I just bring that to your attention as I go forward with that, kind of research that grant and bring you information just so that you know that it's out there.
Great.
And that's my report.
I just want to say that I appreciate your crew, doing what you need to do at Berlin Memorial School.
Oh,
It's been such a long haul,
it has.
They've
They've had some good experiences down there. I mean, it is a little trying every day, trying to get and they're working to get it filled, but they do have some fun down there interacting with the kids and stuff. And I think it's been a good thing for them to be down there. Especially seeing the kids, throughout town as they interact with them and stuff. It's just built our public relations with
Yeah.
them considerably. So,
I'm sure, yeah. Well, thank you, both of you.
Oh, he's not getting away.
Oh,
Mhm.
no, I didn't say he was going anywhere.
nope,
Okay,
You don't want to make Peyton angry.
nope.
these are softball questions. Go ahead, Scott, you got any questions? Oh,
You're muted.
Sorry, muted because of sawing going on in the room next door. I don't have questions for this. I have questions for Kristen in a little bit.
okay.
Okay,
So I had three, but you answered one.
Okay.
One was on the receipt, so you said that there was a lag.
Yep.
Curiosity, do you check the thickness of the ice down at the town pond?
We haven't.
Okay,
And it's one of those things, we can check it, but that can be something that changes on a daily basis. Like,
I
I'm
know.
probably going down to check if people are looking at using the ice just to see how thick it is.
Mm.
The only thing I would caution is depending on, where the sun's hitting, depending what's
Yeah.
underneath the ice with leaves and stuff like that. Some areas can be thinner than others, so it's not always guaranteed that that ice thickness is, if you will, solid throughout. But we can certainly look, if somebody needs us to go down there, we can take a look at seeing where the ice is at and kind of get a general idea of how thick it is.
okay.
now Peg, didn't we suggest to one previous about putting a sign?
There is
And it's still there?
a sign that says skate at your own risk, but I mean, you know how people are with signs, that I would just be curious that
I don't even know if it's still there.
I was on a pole
Okay,
facing the pond. So, but I just didn't know, because I've seen chatter with people saying, hey, come down and skate. And I'm thinking, just make sure you stay towards the courts, because when you go that way, it starts to thin. Okay. So I was actually watching the news tonight. Question came up, Winthrop. They were talking about how both their ambulances were out at the same time, and a call came in, and the nearest ambulance was 20 minutes out. So I guess, could you explain like what our mutual aid support is? So hope to God it never happens. One ambulance is on one end of town, one ambulance is on another town. Right in the middle of town, somebody calls and says, I need you, and there's no vehicles to pick them up. What happens?
We actually have mutual aids through the dispatch center. There's a list in which they use, similar to what we do for fire responses when we do, the different alarms. It triggers mutual aid from the closest, if you will, departments. So we kind of try to do the same thing with the ambulances and stuff to get the closest ambulance to the scene. For example, if it was closer to Highland Commons and Hudson, we'd be calling Patriot Ambulance. As opposed to, as it down on Boylston Road, we'd be looking at either using Clinton or Boylston Fire. One of the issues, and the unfortunate thing is there can come a time where all of the ambulances can be tied up, and I'll use the accident on the highway. Those two accidents, we had tied up pretty much every ambulance, in our surrounding communities from, Bolton all the way over to West Boylston through into Marlboro. So a situation like that happening, if you will, in Northborough, on the highway, we've been at their accidents and stuff, and that's gonna be one where if another call comes in, you're potentially looking at 15 to 20 minutes before you get an ambulance on scene, especially, if you're looking for a turnout from a call department and stuff that's responding in to pick up the ambulance and come, it can delay that much more. And then the other factor that goes into it is whether it's an ALS ambulance that you need or a BLS ambulance. And that's one of the things we noticed last year is I don't have the statistics, but I know that we probably had multiple calls going on, probably the most that we ever have, where both ambulances were actually out on calls. To the point that internally we were talking about that initially when we got the red ambulance A2, that the other one was kind of kept as a mechanical reserve. It's really not a mechanical reserve anymore. It's really in service all the time and it actually responds on quite a few calls. So, it's one of those things of just always trying to be aware of that and what our surrounding communities are. where we have such a decrease in the amount of people that are looking to join call fire departments, and be EMTs and actually become paramedics and work for ambulances, we're seeing that shortage throughout the country as well. So,
Yeah, they were commenting how they basically took one of the chief's trucks and threw some people in the back and went and helped as much as they could.
Wasn't a Chevy Volt.
I can't.
I do know, and
I can say, I believe last year, about a year and a half ago, Chief Clark.
All right, we're unmuted.
Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
we'll
now?
figure out this problem later on. It's just the microphone's just your laptop, it seems, from my end.
Yeah, we were just trying to fix that. Is the volume back at least?
Yeah, the volume's back at least. And again, it's Kristen, you sound like you're a little further away, but I can hear you fine. Peg is the focus, and I can hear both the chiefs, but they're from a distance.
Drop your mic, pull it closer so it's more level.
I think my volume, the mic, the only mic that Zoom is picking up is the mic on the laptop in front of you, Peg.
Yeah.
Is this
Luckily,
any-
the recording that Cable Access is having is apparently getting everyone's volume, so it'll be better on playback.
All right, we're gonna work on it a little bit after the meeting. Can you hear me
Yep.
any better now?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, now that I've totally lost my train of thought, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Wait, I've got a whole month to prepare when the both of you come back. So,
Let's try to save it.
no, I'm good. I'm good. Appreciate it.
Are you all set?
No, but okay.
but to close out that question, all the apparatus have first aid equipment on it, so if we have both ambulances come into a call, my hope is that we'll at least be able to get the chief's vehicle, one of the engines, or one of the other pieces of apparatus for that first aid equipment. If everybody has an AED, so if there's a heart attack or a cardiac arrest, we can actually utilize that to hopefully restore a pulse.
Well, it was just one of those weird things that it was Winthrop, and you're thinking that Winthrop is ginormous.
You would think there'd be more than two.
You would think that there would be more than two.
Yeah. Yep.
So, okay.
Well, but that same news story also talked about how Winthrop didn't have a lot of mutual aid agreements, and I think that's what ultimately saves us.
Yeah.
Is that the towns around here, we come to each other's aid. I say we like I get personally involved, but we come to each other's aid on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah. No, we do have a great mutual aid system that we can at least get people rolling and stuff and get people to the scene. So it might take a little bit longer, but we at least have that in place that if for some reason, if we're operating in a fire and none of us as the command officers are able to make a decision, the dispatchers have a really great system being able to go down and just pick what the next truck is coming in based on what we've set up for mutual aid.
I'm off.
I have a question. The
this is
21
right.
unfilled shifts in December, how does that relate? You don't need to know the exact numbers, but relatively to the previous months, is it starting to improve in terms of unfilled shifts?
Yeah, I believe December was better than November. I think November, was probably my worst, if I remember correctly, between September, October, and November.
No, I'm not
December,
sure what's
fall,
going
and
on.
winter months.
What if we put one of
December was a
these
little
down
bit
here?
better. And I don't have any, now that January's finished, I'll take a look at those shifts. I know I have some open ones that occurred there, but I don't know what the numbers are at the moment. We haven't missed any calls, which is good. That part I'm happy about, but.
Good. Well, and part of the reason I'm asking is because this got discussed at FinCom, but it hasn't been discussed here, and we'll talk a bit about it when we get to budgets. As you know, the union contract that was settled had about a $40,000 increase in year one, which was FY '24. But because there were so many unfilled shifts this year, as we built back up the ranks, given the adjusted salary schedule, we didn't have to make the adjustment in FY '24. And then there was an estimated $16,000 adjustment needed in FY '25. So you're actually going to see the amount from '24 and '25 hit in '25. So it is a big increase. And one of the things we're talking about is how can we fund that and can we do it perhaps incrementally? The problem is our goal is to fully staff the department and be able to be responsive quickly and not rely on mutual aid. Basically exactly what you're talking about, Peg. So I'd like to be able to fully fund those shifts and then have it flows back to free cash if it's not used. But
Correct.
it gives us the ability to fill those shifts, have people there so we can have the adequate response.
Okay. If there's no more questions, then we'll move on to the renovation project.
All right. I didn't realize I didn't bring them. You had questions from last month, which I got answers for, and I believe they're probably sitting downstairs on my desk. But going from memory, one of the questions was, basically by creating this schematic design that we were looking at and stuff, and how long is that good for? And speaking with those in the business, they said that, about a year. I asked, is a year good? Is it 2 years? And they were like, really, they were like, it's as long as the code doesn't change. And as long as the state doesn't rule out any major changes, they said you're usually good for a year. And they've been talking about code changes for years and nobody anticipates any kind of coming out from the state at this point. But that's really where if you will, any change that would make to the places, if they came out with a new code that came out, the new version or something like that, that they need to redo the schematics on it. And it's kind of one of those things that may not be that big of an impact on the plans once we've gotten them. It may be a minor adjustment that they have to do. So that was the answer for that one. The other thing, the chief and I looked at which plan would be, if you will, best for us to kind of go forward with and to build things out. Kind of looking at it.
I understood it, but Chief was echoing. No, him.
Sorry.
I'm thinking.
There was echoes, and I think because they suddenly had great volume, and I think both sides ended up muting.
Here comes
We had
Brittany.
it for a second.
He hears
I
now.
think you gotta let her adjust it, right?
I changed something in the other room, but then we were getting the audio feedback. When I made that change, could you hear better?
Could
Yes,
you-
very much so.
That change?
He's saying yes.
Yes, very, very much so. And then we just got the feedback because Peg was also, that the laptop in front of Peg was also unmuted.
All right. Well,
Might have some feedback for a minute. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us. This is our first.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think Mike will also tell you that, we're overlooking those plans too, the contingency fund in the initial plans was pretty high.
Yeah, one of the things that would be standard for contingency plans, in these from an architect is about 5% is what the industry kind of goes with. Ours is about 20%. And talking with a couple of people that were able to review this with me and have a conversation to explain to me what it was.
this one is not muted.
Right. I think that worked.
No, you gotta turn the speaker volume down, I think.
Bottom right.
Yeah, on the computer itself, right?
Yes, the physical computer, bottom right hand corner, this would be like a.
Next one.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's your.
There just needs to be some psychedelic lights too, to like make this go on. Okay.
There we go.
Good.
Can you talk to me, please?
Yes, I can talk to you and I can hear it quite well.
Can't hear
The
him.
one suggested
It's
been
also
all right.
Oh, now it's
But-
getting
but I
visually
figured it
psychedelic as well.
There it goes. You asked for it.
Hear us, but now we can't.
Hear him.
Hold on,
Speaking of replacement
I
computers.
like that view.
Psychedelic. Bang.
There he is.
Hang on,
He's
Scott.
back.
Because I think we want to keep Scott up here, correct?
Oh,
The,
Because he's here. He's part of
the
the board.
the small upside of all of
We
this
can't
is
hear you,
that,
Scott.
can anyone hear me at all?
I don't think
People
you want to
don't
hear him because he looked like Max Headroom for a minute.
microphone, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, unmute the microphone, not the speaker.
There it goes. You asked for it. Peg is listening to this.
Oh,
It is.
not the speakers, right? Because the speaker in front of Peg
Well,
is
if it's
still.
listening, I'd like a donation of about $80 bazillion. So, you know,
That was more like.
I am able to,
can't hear him.
You're not muted,
Well,
Scott.
I keep trying to say
No, it
things.
doesn't look
I'm
like
running-
he is.
I'm running out
But
of
that
things
lends
to say.
itself to Scott's theory because he was lit up and she was lit up in the box, so she was feeding through the
Okay, we
computer
go
somehow.
Here we go. It's Max Headroom.
I like that interesting effects that we have on the other side.
Scott, I think you're going to have to just start using cue cards. Write your comments down. on a
Your
piece of
computer
paper,
is
hold them up.
turning you psychedelically purple and blue. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Brittany, it's saying not hearing anything, turn up your volume. There's a little thing on the top. You want me to turn it up a bit?
So,
Yeah, I can hear you folks fine.
which is the speakers for that laptop?
Okay.
Back where you were and you turned everything down?
Mm-hmm.
No,
So hit
not
us-
in Zoom.
Hit escape to get out of the full screen.
Yes, copy. Okay.
That didn't work.
All right, sorry, there's a lot of moving parts to get in.
There are a lot of moving parts to Zoom. As someone who helps diagnose some of these things,
Scott, I hope you're making really good points because we
I'm
don't hear
making
you.
great points. And I'll have no idea what I'm saying.
He is getting
I-
recorded on the Zoom.
Oh, God. Maybe we need to
So
stop
you
recording.
select your speaker on that laptop.
Look at what you're doing. You're messing with
yeah.
my screen.
Do that gear at the bottom.
He does that.
There you
Okay,
go.
gear.
Yes,
Does
yes.
that all the time.
Yeah.
The one below. There we go.
Okay.
Now,
I mean-
don't mute yourself. Turn the volume back up.
This is our first sort of big hybrid select board
Yep.
meeting, and so it is our chance to sort of test all these things out. Hopefully, for you at home watching this, also makes the experience better for
Well,
you.
Scott, he's just continuing to talk.
I am talking just so that when the speaker finally works, you actually can hear me at some point.
So
We
there you
can.
go.
I think you're on the recording.
Scott, we hope that you. Oh,
I've been saying appropriate things.
okay.
That's what you're wondering. Great.
Well, I can turn down the speakers. if you hear anything, but-
Brittany will have some creative splicing to do.
Why does it do that? It did that the last time. What were we in here for?
Coffee talk and it was doing it.
Oh, coffee talk. Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry, Chris. That should be
It's okay.
muted on there.
I can still hear.
Oh,
We
good.
can hear
Still
you.
hear me?
Yeah. But there's.
And when I
some-
talk, I become the focus of the screen. And since I'm only a portion of it, it just shrinks me into infinity.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Oh, you can see that happening.
How does
I
that
wasn't
feel?
sure.
How does that feel, Scott?
I can see it happening too.
Well, how does it feel?
I just can't be silent apparently, because as soon as I stop talking, it starts shrinking me into infinity. I'm hoping this also ultimately improves the experience for people at home who are watching as well.
Well,
Try
you
to
sound a
close it.
little bit better,
Computers.
but they're still echoing.
Maybe this is too close.
Oh,
No, because it picked her up.
Oh,
am I echoing? Yeah, I'm still echoing from down here.
push it away a little bit. Maybe it's just too close.
I've pushed away. I think you can't hear me.
Can you still hear Kristen? No, I'm echoing.
I can, although again, I think Peg's computer's not muted.
My personal computer?
Well,
Is
the,
muted.
sorry, the computer I see you on,
The thing we're gonna do is mute the mic, shut the mic
not the
off.
speaker, right?
All right.
Not
That's
the-
what I did on on the computer itself. I muted the mic.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the mic is muted on the computer itself. See?
Mhm.
I do that. Does that make a difference? Then I don't think they can hear us.
Yeah, it says turn up the volume. There's a song, isn't there?
Turn up the bass.
Is there a mic on the other computer?
No, I shut it off.
If I do something, Scott, tell me if you can still hear. Can you still hear us now?
I can still hear everyone, yes.
We can't hear you though.
Oh,
Okay.
no, because that's the speaker, because I don't see a little like microphone with a line through it on Peg's, on the screen that I see Peg on.
All right, we might have to just deal with a little bit of feedback.
Ooh,
Wonder what it says.
that's good. I can still hear. I don't think there's an echo.
Okay. No, there's an echo on our end.
There's an echo on this one.
A tiny one.
The microphone is being said and he's really, microphone. That sound that wrong. You are playing the microphone. That's very good.
So can we move the laptop away?
This is entirely wrong. I mean, this is.
Oh, okay. That's
I'm not worried about it.
okay.
We'll deal.
We'll try to ignore it.
Sound how you do it.
No, I don't have anything open except Google Drive and email.
Only audio. Yeah. Then come to people over there.
We'll figure it out.
We'll get used to hearing ourselves echo.
Echo, echo.
Echo.
All right, so
So, yeah, getting back to that plan, the contingency that's in there was about 20%, which it looks like the three areas for the contingency that they had identified was looking at the flooring up on that second floor to make sure that it's able to hold the weight of us being up there, if you will. So there was that structural component. There was the contingency for the electrical component, which would be whether or not another panel is needed, or if the emergency generator would need to be, if you will, larger to handle the capacity of having a second floor. And the third possible contingency was the septic system of whether or not that could adequately hold 2 additional bathrooms up on that floor. So with that being said, that contingency plan being as high as it is, we may have a savings in that. So I kind of talked with a couple different companies, and one of the verbal quotes that I had was for $29,999 for the schematic designs versus I think we're at $57,000 through the other company at this point. So I'm kind of looking at how, hopefully trying to get that to the $29,000 mark to be able to get the schematic designs that we need if we move this forward.
okay. What are we looking for?
Well, no, my only concern about approving the renovation project was, Eric, something you had talked about earlier, but you're gonna have unknown costs of the repeater and antennas and things like that, so.
So the money for the radios, we still have about $280,000 in a donation account.
Okay.
So, even if we do have a catastrophic failure, we're not gonna be hitting the town coffers on it.
Okay.
But we're still gonna be within the parameters. We're still waiting to hear on the $400,000 radio improvement from the federal government as well. It's past all stages of the budget. We're just waiting for the final budget to be approved by Congress, which is the definition of the act of Congress. That's what we're waiting for. So once that happens, I think the two of us have sat down and gone over multiple options. And we're talking a third cell site. This new company plugged in the hotel as a repeater site, and they were shocked. They ran their programs, and that's actually a great spot for it. They didn't think they'd be able to make it to Coburn Road from there, but when he did the schematics, he was beyond amazed that he said there's more than enough area to run a third repeater from there. So now we're not looking at trying to find conservation land or town-owned land to put a 120-foot monopole up with a couple antennas at the top. So hopefully in the near future, we can have a discussion with Homewood Suites and the Riddell family. We do have an antenna on top there. It's called a bi-directional antenna. And we just need to switch that over to a one antenna. It's a dual Omni antenna that will take police and fire. And be able just to mount the antenna up there, and we'll put one of the repeaters there and a microwave antenna, and looks like we're gonna be up in the high 90s percentile for radio coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I was just concerned with the costs. I'm sitting there as you were talking and I'm thinking to change.
Yeah, we're definitely concerned. I mean, pre-COVID prices were probably 30% less, maybe 40% less. From what we're seeing.
For renovation, are you talking about?
No, the
radios.
Oh, the antenna.
Yeah, the radios. We know, Mike and I are well aware of the budget we need to work within, and like I said, our goal is to not touch the tax base at all.
Yep.
And to be able to do it. And we're working with companies and we're telling them that this is not a, blank check. We have a budget to work within, and this is what we need to be done. Can you make it happen? And the last salesperson we sat with, they're like, yeah, we can make it happen.
And I think one of the good things we have is that we can do a phased in approach with it if we have to get the PD up and running. We're, as the chief was saying, having that Apple device trying to talk to the flip phone where it doesn't work. If we needed to get their system back up and running without touching the fire department, we can do that, which there'd be a cost savings to that. So the initial hit, if you will, to get PD back up to where they need to be, wouldn't be as extravagant as doing the fire department at the same time, because we're still running. There's a noticeable difference when we're out on Marlborough Road or Gates Pond Road, in that section of town where the fire department does have better coverage with the dispatch center than the police department does. If we're at a car accident, there's a lot of times we'll relay the information or they hear it on our side because they can't pick it up on their radios. And I think that's because of that antenna being blocked by that cell phone company's equipment, where it just makes it so that none of the transmissions can get through from dispatch to the officers or from the officers back to dispatch. And kind of looking at that, the scary thing is if there is a call there at a traffic stop and there's an assault on the other side of town and they're trying to tell them that, the officer may not hear it. So those are the things we're looking at to say that's the priority, is get the police department where they need to be. And the company's willing to work with us on that to make that happen.
So why is there such a discrepancy between the 59,000-ish shovel ready versus 29,000? That's a big difference.
It is a big difference. I don't have a good answer for you at the moment. Just because it's one of those things, I've had the verbal discussion to say this is kind of where we're at. This is what's going on. I know one of there was the discussion about the cost estimate being a little bit high. And I don't know if this comes down to somebody looking at it saying for a municipality, we'll pad the numbers a little bit or make it a little bit better. I'm not sure where the discrepancy comes. That was one of the big things was with the contingency plan that we were able to identify that was one of the differences, where the industry standard was 5%, but this one has 20% built into it. So I'm not sure getting into other aspects of it as to what the differences are, if there's more money that's built into that, and that's part of where this is coming from. Or...
A lot of this, I think, is just doing our due diligence. When people see government contracts, they just say, we'll just give them a number, they'll go for it. Either Mike or I fall for that game. We're not in a rush, and honestly, we control the purse strings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for decades people just did municipal projects and said, oh, that's what it is. I mean, if I walked in here 2 years ago and said, hey, they said it's going to be $700,000 when we do our radios, and you say, oh, okay, but you didn't say, well, how many companies did you talk to?
Right.
One. We're I think on our third or fourth radio company.
Yeah.
And, like I said, our thing is not an open checkbook. This is what we have. We know what we need. Can you do it?
And can you do a quality job?
Yeah. It's apples for apples. It's the same repeaters, the same systems, the same battery banks, the same filters, A to Z. Like it's becoming not a nightmare of a project, but it opens my eyes to see that, yeah, you can do things for a lot cheaper if you pay attention.
There are exemptions in procurement. Architectural and engineering services are often one of those exemptions. And the reason for that is so that you can get going quickly and get off the ground. But this is a great example of the fact that you should still see quotes, regardless, because you just don't know what's out there. And obviously, the firms would be reference checked to make sure that they are, just as good as they say they are.
Yeah, we'll do the same thing on the radio side. It's, we didn't realize how much negotiation power there was with a company. But if a company wants to be here, they'll accommodate you with your price tag. We've learned that pretty quick.
Do you have any other additional questions, Peg?
No, they got them all.
And Scott, do you have any additional questions?
No, I think I am good at sort of putting together a plan for the third floor, knowing that we don't really quite yet have the funds yet or know where the funds are coming from for paying for it.
Hold on, we're still tinkering with you. Oh, there you go.
So turn off the speaker on the computer itself, I think, in that bottom right-hand corner. No, on the computer in the blue bar.
Oh,
Below.
There you go.
turn them off.
Turn that all the way down.
That's what we did last time. We couldn't hear him, right?
Well, that's what Brittany said to try.
Right.
Scott, can you hear us?
Well, I can hear you.
And we can't hear you.
And I have the same echo that you folks
Okay.
can hear too.
Mute on the corner again on the Zoom
Let's
meeting.
try. Well, whoops. Into the news. Hey, it's like fun with flags.
That's right.
Fun with
Zoom.
Zoom.
Fun with Zoom?
Oh,
Scott?
Yep, I'm still
Yep,
here.
Nope.
I can still hear you folks.
Okay.
No, you have to
I guess we
back
need to
down.
turn, we need to
Over
bring
there
back
again.
up.
There you
Yeah.
go.
No, we'll try
I
a little.
feel for Brittany. I'm not coming up with any great ideas, and I support a bunch of Zoom meetings too. Hybrid is not easy.
No. Well,
That's why it's taken so
Well,
long.
this is making it very distracting to say things
Yeah.
because it's I feel like it's coming out of your mouth twice.
No, it's 29 years of using two-way radios. It doesn't bother me at all. Yeah. We're used to it. Between scanners and radios in the cars, we're used to it.
I know.
Yeah, so as far as the finances go, Chief and I have talked about really locking down the expenditures with the public safety money that comes in, especially through like Highland Commons. And I think that's a great source because, like I said, no matter what we do, we don't want to hit the tax base.
right.
Our goal is not to hit the tax base. For years, we've heard, basically 33% of the town is seniors. We don't want to raise taxes on seniors. Obviously we need to operate efficiently as a police department, fire departments, public safety. We have to operate efficiently. But when it comes to the little extras, I'm going to call them, they can't hit the tax base. I live in a town where everything hits the tax base. And if it wasn't for family, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I definitely appreciate that.
So I think you'd be looking for the board. You certainly have the funding. There's 136,500 left in that line item. So you'd be looking for the board to authorize, I would say, because it was 29 and change, right? So up to $30,000 to move forward with the designs to be shovel ready.
Okay, well, I have one more question and you hit it right on the nose right off the bat. And that was the concern about the timing. And, you do one half or the first part, I should say, and then you do the second part and they say, oh, no, you did that too long ago. Now you need to go back and do it over again. And that's what I'm concerned about.
I
So
think one of the things is,
we'd have to get to the
yeah.
second part in a timely manner.
Yeah. So I think that if we did this after May and say we targeted for a June, mid-June plan, by the time they came out, it would probably be July or August. And that would give us a fall town meeting, another spring town meeting, and potentially another fall town meeting. So I think it would cover 3 town meetings. Because I obviously I wouldn't want it today because we have 4 months before town meeting. So they sit idle for 4 months. You're already losing a quarter of the time just sitting idle. So I think if we made it through town meeting and saw where our finances were going to be coming in Highland Commons Fund or whatever, if we can use part of that funding to fund this project, and that would give us, like I said, leapfrog us into, maybe, spring of 25 for an approval. And hopefully by then we can say we have 3/4 of the money through public safety mitigation.
I guess I'm not concerned with the money unless we have to do something over again because it's been
Yeah.
too long since, because we did it so early.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do, and one of the things, and I was gonna look to Kristen for an answer on it. If we work with a company to do this and pick that timeline to say we want to have meetings to actually get this so that we have by July or August, the design plan completed at that point. So it gives us that period of longevity that we need. And it may also be able to give us a look into what the state might be doing for code, if you will, updates for the next year to time it so that it comes out so it's the most advantageous for us.
Well, and another question is if we need to take it to town meeting and town meeting says no, then you'll probably more than likely have to start over with the first part again.
You would never have to start over with the
Right.
plans. You would just have to update them. I've actually dusted off a couple sets of old plans before. I mean, it's probably more now because the last time I did it was probably 6 years ago, but it was less than $5,000 to update the plans.
And that was because it was
That went stale.
right, but by how many years or much time?
At that point, I
Because when you
think
do
they were
that-
about 4 years outdated.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that's why it goes back to like strategically planning, getting them. That way we can get into FY 25 and FY 26. If we get plans at that time.
And we want to keep tracking that municipal building fund
Mhm.
as well and see what happens with that.
Mhm.
And how that rolls out, hopefully, if it does in FY 25. And that I think will be a driver as well.
Okay,
Yeah, so like I said, I hope to show up to town meeting with it being pretty much no cost to the tax base.
Yeah.
So don't want to give anybody a reason to say no. I know we're gonna have people say no anyways, but I just want to make it look like we're making a full-hearted effort to keep
Yeah.
this within the budget that we have funds coming in.
Right.
We're not projecting any tax increases to pay for this.
We're kind of looking at that strategic planning of, what's coming up in the future, what are our needs going to be, from a fleet standpoint and, manpower standpoint and stuff, and trying to identify that we can hopefully use that money, as opposed, because with the next fire truck coming in, it's going to be years before I need to do anything with the fleet. And even if that comes about, my hope is to look at reducing our fleet a little bit. The only expenditure I might have in the next couple of years is if we need another ambulance, but that would be kind of looking at the ambulance expenditure line and not from the mitigation funds.
and what about ALS?
ALS is going to be one of those things that it's like I'm actually looking from a regional standpoint of how we can accomplish that.
Mhm.
Just and I think we're not the only town that's in that boat. I think everybody's looking at what's the best way to utilize our paramedics. And I really think coming down the pike that's going to be the best way of having 2 or 3 towns that are kind of, a regional department that has a paramedic unit that's available. But we have multiple BLS trucks that are doing the majority of our transports because you don't need a paramedic for every call. And that way they can pick and choose which calls they're actually going to transport on. So the person that needs a true ALS, transport gets it.
Mm-hmm.
How many paramedics do you know if you know offhand? Boylston have, Clinton have, Hudson have, Bolton. I'm trying to think of like the towns that hit every one of our borders.
Yeah, Bolton's the only one right now that has a medic program. And they have a lot of per diem paramedics that cover their shifts that work full time at other places. I think looking at it, I know the chief in Bolton is a paramedic, and I believe his deputy chief is a paramedic that works full time in a neighboring department. There's two of us that are on the department here in Berlin. Obviously I'm one, and then the other one works full-time for another department. I'm not sure if Boylston has any, but again, it's looking at that. How do we, again, utilizing them the best we can, because if we're all under one umbrella, you have, to your point, more paramedics that are available for the calls. And then it's looking at being able to utilize ALS a little bit better with, there's another level called advanced EMTs.
You forget we have a paramedic too.
Oh, that's right. I forgot the PD does have a paramedic on staff. But it's like getting training for that. One of the problems is that unfortunately, those classes are only they're recognized in Massachusetts for the advanced EMT level. But in order for you to get the training for it, you have to go out of state because it's not offered in Massachusetts. So it's kind of weird. And, in my former department that I had, it was a very strong ALS department utilizing those advanced EMTs and being able to strategically place the paramedics on the calls. And I think that's ultimately where we're going to go in this area. And I know a lot of departments are looking at, like, I believe Clinton right now is doing another ALS study. They did one, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, and they're doing another one now. And I'm not sure what information they're looking for that's different, but it's trying to, again, just utilize the resources in the best way possible.
And the hard part's going to be regionalization, because I know when it was started before to talk to another town, it was, oh my God, you're going to take all our resources and my house is going to burn down and someone's going to break into my house and you won't come. So it's all that stuff that if you go before the town, you almost have to take that into consideration to say cost, availability, time.
And I think it makes us more efficient when we do that. And we can, when you look at the milestones that you have to hit for that, it usually takes a couple of years to build that up, because you have to look at saying, okay, if we're going to look at regionalization, we can't start it tomorrow. It's not going to happen next year. Mm-hmm. But looking down the road in 5 years, saying, okay, if that's going to be our start time, let's back it up and look at what we need to accomplish from a management standpoint of who the board of directors are going to be, or what the control is going to be. And, it's like I actually had this conversation a while ago with Kristen about there's usually a fiefdom that comes with your fire department, where this is my territory, this is my town, and nobody else is coming in. I guess I'm an outlier on that, because I look at it, it's like, what's best for Mr. and Mrs. Smith that we serve. I don't need to be the chief. There could be somebody, there's a job in a regional department for me. I may not be the chief, but there's some operational or training mode that I'm going to be in. I'm still going to receive a paycheck, and I'm still going to be out there doing the job I love. So it's like, I think that's one of the differences with me compared to other people, but there's plenty of jobs there, and there's a way to make this work that's better for everybody involved. And when you usually have, we have 3 staff departments right now between Berlin, Bolton, and Boylston as an example. We don't all work as well as we could together from a regional standpoint, where you have 3 staff stations that could be responding to a building fire. And I think that's one of the benefits we had on Highland Street was we'd implemented our card with what we call automatic response, which was that all of those departments start automatically to us for a building fire. So we have the help that we need, and we have enough tankers coming that when we have a fire, we have water to actually put it out so we can run out. So it's thinking ahead and working together like that from a regional standpoint before you even become a regional department. And those are the steps you take. And the same thing when you look at apparatus, the amount of money we have tied up in apparatus that we reproduce for every town is kind of crazy. And you can take that money and you can use, instead of spending $1 million so everybody has 3 fire trucks, it's like reduce it so you have a fire truck, an ambulance, and a specialty piece, whether it's a ladder truck, a tanker, or a super forestry truck that, but you have the reserve trucks you need between a regional department. And now you have a couple $1 million that you're not spending on apparatus that you can use for equipment or manpower. So it's things like that you look at from a regional level that can change the dynamics for these communities. So you actually have full-time people strategically placed that reduce that response time and deliver a good service. And you still need the volunteers and the call staff that's there to backfill and to come in and assist.
Right. And those are all the stories that you need to tell with the information to back it up to say, exactly, this is not mine, I'm not doing, we could save if you did studies indicate blah, blah, blah. So that
you almost need to do,
it's a show and tell.
Well, not only that, but you have to get the word out that you're considering it a couple of years before you're actually going to do it.
Yep, and
And
there's
that's
a
the hard part.
huge education component that goes with that, of letting the community know that you're not, the services are only gonna get better, they're not gonna get worse. And there's a system set up to monitor that so that we get the feedback, so that we can actually say, here are our response times, and this is what they were before, this is what they are now. You know, you recognize there's gonna be some missteps along the way where we're gonna have to recorrect. But that's all part of the process to give a better service to everybody.
Well, yeah, we also have a model to follow, and that's the Neshoba Dispatch.
I was just gonna say, we have two things working in our advantage.
Yeah.
The first is that Bolton is already a part of that. And so there's a, a camaraderie, but building between, chiefs on both police, fire and town administrators, because there's an admin and ops
Right.
and a finance board. A big part of the second part of this is how well do the town administrators work together? And obviously I'm still relatively new here. Bolton is looking for a new town administrator, and April and I have been talking about other shared regional services recently too. So I think the time is now to start having these conversations. And I think it really could work. It has to be the right people, the right time, and the right towns, because
The right towns.
it can be
is very important.
catastrophic.
Yeah, I will
No.
say, Chief Flanagan in Boylston, he and I have a very good working relationship, and we share resources quite frequently. Like with the school responses, I believe it's similar to the police department, where it's like when there's something in the school, both departments are immediately responding. And he's paying attention to what's going on over here, so he can come and back me up, and I'm doing the same for him. And it's like, I think from that standpoint, that will work very well. There's other players that, as you get in, you have to have those discussions and talk and make it not as scary for them, that there's not a takeover being done.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, he's a good guy. I saw him in town the other day in his black truck, and I'm
Yeah.
like, Joey, what are you doing in town? Yeah.
All right. So have all of our questions been answered to the point of needing a motion
For now.
Hmm?
For now.
for now? Scott, are you ready to make a motion?
I'd make a motion if you could hear me.
I can hear you. I can always relay.
Oh, good. I will make the motion that we proceed with design specs for the third floor space and town offices for police and fire.
So for those who can't hear him, Scott made the motion to proceed with the request to move forward with the specs for the second floor in the town offices. Did I get that right?
Public safety building.
And public safety building. Thank you, Chief
It's
Shasta.
the third floor here, but it's the second floor for us.
Yeah.
I messed that up. I started
Yes, you
calling it
did.
the
You called
third
it
floor
the third
renovation.
floor, and I'm thinking, it's not a third floor over there.
I messed everybody up.
They're on the
It's
roof.
my fault.
All right, I will second your motion, Scott.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to say?
And we're authorizing it up to 30K, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And Scott got a thumbs up and an aye. Okay. Scott, I'll be your interpreter. That's not a problem. I'm happy to help.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Lovely
you
to see
very
you.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Stay safe.
And we're going to move on to the town administrator report.
All right. I'm going to keep it a little bit quick tonight because we have a lot of items still on the agenda.
And we do have an executive session.
Yes, we do. That should hopefully be brief too, but yes. Budget is main focus of my time right now. We are still doing our FinCom meetings every Wednesday night at 7:30 if anyone's interested in attending. Also, the Capital Planning Committee voted their FY25 capital plan recommendations on Thursday evening, and they would like to present their plan to the select board on February 26th, if that's amenable. And they will also reconvene later this year to discuss a potential update to the capital bylaw. It's very unclear what their purview is in terms of what's a capital item and what falls under their jurisdiction. And I believe that needs to be clarified. Typically, a capital item is anything with a useful life of 5 or more years or over $10,000. And the bylaw does not make that clear. And so when we get to like special articles for, say, the master plan update for planning board, That has gone before capital before, but that is not a capital item. A study should not be falling before capital. But the bylaw makes it a real gray area. So we need to work on that. They also will discuss the facilities assessment and review town assets. I have reserved the gym for the proposed special town meeting. I won't say fall because it's December 9th at 7:30. So we are good to go if we decide to move forward with that date. On some disturbing news, it's 35 grand to update our website from Civics Plus. So I'm exploring other options at this time. On a positive note, we are meeting tomorrow or Wednesday, I forget which day, with Riverbridge.
I thought it was Thursday.
Sorry, could be Thursday.
Maybe it is.
I don't know sometimes what day it is.
I don't even know until the next day.
Yeah. To discuss a potential solution, and the fourth modification and hopefully final modification to the development agreement. As I was mentioning before, I've been participating in some discussions regarding shared animal control services with a number of communities. Also been having some potential long-term sort of side conversations about what do we do for building inspectors when Rich inevitably someday decides that he would like to ride off into the sunset. It's actually been working pretty well at this point. But I know his wife would like to have him at home. So we'll see how that goes. Also, many thanks to Dee Green and Ken Patton, our new building maintenance operator, for moving and reorganizing your meeting room, which is now here. And hopefully we will continue to have better luck, but with hybrids going forward.
Maybe just a little more heat too.
A little heat, yeah. Well, that's
Pretty cold
we did
here.
receive
It's
a
freezing.
grant to do an HVAC study because it is freezing in some offices and boiling in others. So we got an $8,500 grant, which we will be working to do in the next couple of months on what is going on with the heat in this building, basically, and what do we need to do to fix it.
Warm over there in the Concom's room.
It's often warm in the hallway too, but not the offices, which
Maybe we need to leave the doors open for.
sometimes that's what we do is leave the door open and the heat comes in. But obviously space heaters are not a great solution. However, we can't ask people to freeze all day. So we're trying to work that out. So that's what I have for you.
Okay, questions? Scott?
On the website, the several consultants I talked to really thought it was a $75,000 to $90,000 project.
Could you send me some names?
He said 75 to 90.
Oh, 90. I thought you said 7,500.
75.
No, but
1,000?
I think 35,000 is a good price because
Oh.
my friends who are in the industry wouldn't touch it for less than 75,000.
Got it. I will tell you, Dee, when we initially allocated 10,000, said to me, no way, we just updated our website in Oxford and it was 35,000. I went, well, that's really bad news. And then this quote comes back at 35,000. So she was spot on.
Yeah,
There's nothing that you could do with Assabet or
I think we can work with the existing website we have. I don't think the issue is so much the design of the website. I
It's
think
just
it's the
keeping it up.
organization and the updating of the website.
yeah.
So Dee and I are kind of talking about what we may be able to do. And I actually had an interesting conversation with a potential senior worker who I discovered is updating the Historical Commission website by herself and knows how to use Civics Plus and may be interested in helping us as well. So kind of working on that angle at this time.
yeah, I mean, it's not a bad website. It's kind of clunky. It's not updated.
No,
It's just not easy to find things.
right. I mean, we could phase it in. When I wrote back to the guy at Civics Plus, he came back to me today and said, well, we could phase it in and, we could look at leftover ARPA. But I think we need to finish or get a little bit further into what we're doing with ARPA before we potentially allocate that money. We've got about 52,000 to reallocate. So could we throw another 25 at it? I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to do it right now. But it is a possibility.
Yeah, it's not a critical need, and maybe we need to survey people to say or maybe you take the information that the original member from town
Mhm.
received for feedback and see, are there any critical errors, or is the website a nice to have or a want to have? Because there's a giant difference,
Yeah.
in that.
You have anything else you want to add, Scott?
If we could get usage statistics for the website, it would be great. Like what pages are looked at by how many people?
Oh,
Yeah,
the
can you
count,
get-
yeah.
Yeah, can you get any statistics on where people are going and what they're pulling up?
So like a view count and what they're looking at?
Yeah, like what pages are they
Well, I'm
going
not
to?
looking at any page because when I search for things, I can't find it.
Oh, I find them. I find
Fair
them. It
enough.
takes a while, but I find them.
Every single one.
No, but how much money is based on 100 people using it versus 10,000 people using it?
I just say, what's frustrating to me is
Well, and
You do?
Scott made the comment too, you know, are we going to put money into it if 100 people are using it or 10,000 people are using it? So
correct.
yes, there's leftover ARPA money, but there's so many things in town that money could potentially go towards.
Right.
To me, the website is not critical.
And I have to tell you, Dee is great. So I've already trained her on how to make updates to the website and she's picked up on it extremely quickly. So I think we have some real potential there and on the volunteer side to
I
keep
don't
it
think we should put
updated.
this off for a long time, though.
No.
I think
Want to.
that there could be more information out there to people if it worked right.
Right. And we're trying to keep the homepage up to date under the news and announcements and pushing information there and through Facebook. That's at a minimum what we're doing right now. I see this as a post-budget season that we could do internally. I think this could be an internal summer project if you're amenable to waiting that long.
Well, I don't mind till summer, no. But if we're talking about, oh, you know, we don't need it, you know, I think that's not good because it could be 4 or 5 years before.
No,
No,
do anything then.
no, I'm talking maybe 6 months.
Scott gave you a thumbs up on summer.
I got to get through budget season and then
Well,
I can
that's just it,
focus
you know,
on.
where this falls and everything that's going on. I don't think it rises to the top of an, oh my God. I mean, I think it's one of your goals,
Yep.
you know, so update your goals, you know.
And and now that I came back with absolutely not, we can't afford that. They're trying to get creative on their end too, to see, like, as the chiefs were just talking about, oh, we can't afford 35. Well, what can you afford and what can we do? And can we scale it back, but still make it work? So still like exploring, like I said, and having those conversations of, is there some that they can do on their end for 10 grand?
Well, that's just it. I think if you give them a list and you say that we need Winkin, Blinkin and
Yeah, but we
Nod
don't
done.
even know.
The
Well, that's
homepage
fair
is the
enough,
biggest issue. Like, can we get the homepage redone and easier to navigate? Even the buttons updated on the homepage. I mean, just so people can easily click to find specific information.
Well, that's just it. We need to be specific in what we're asking them before, because you're almost giving them a blank check for 35 grand to say, here you go, and we have nothing to compare it against.
Well, and
I think we would need a presentation or something.
oh, definitely,
You know, if we were going to use somebody that
Correct.
was going to cost that much.
definitely. And I did send out a request. I actually got an email in, ironically, last week from a different web provider. I said, hey, looking to update your website. I said, yes, send me a quote. So
Yeah,
waiting on
I've
that.
gotten a couple myself.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Six Plus
I
is the
just
big
usually
name.
delete.
I know.
I'm not the
Sometimes
person
it's-
to make that
Well,
decision.
it's spam a lot when they come in too,
Yes.
so.
I've got one that's really being a pest, not on websites. No, oh, yeah, I've done that before, but
Give them our emails and then we'll handle
I
them
don't think I
appropriately.
don't think you want to.
Or maybe not.
This is not this guy.
Well, we can deal with them though. We can tell them politely to go away.
Okay.
We'll send them to Sue. She'll take care of it.
Okay.
Scott, any more questions? Nope, shaking his head no.
Okay, then.
Food pantry.
Yeah, I was just considering asking a question, but I'll ask you later.
Okay.
Old business and discuss or vote on the food pantry lease.
So I just have 2 quick things on the food pantry lease that I want to run by you. There's a couple of changes in the insurance terms that the town council is recommending. One is they want to include language about workers' comp. Now, because the food pantry has volunteers, they may be exempt from it,
Mhm.
but that's still standard contract language that you need to have in there, that they need to make a determination on their end if they're eligible for an exemption there. So I did send it back to them. I do know that Mary Porter is assisting a bit on a legal end, helping out from there. And so I did let them know that. The bigger question is this all risk insurance that is currently written into the draft lease that is basically like property, like risk insurance. Should they actually do damage to the building? Should somebody, I don't know, take a, you know, I don't know, a big hammer of some sort and make a hole in the wall? So is that likely to happen? I don't really think so. Sue's really frustrated one day, comes into the food pantry and decides she's going to, tear the place up. I don't really think that's going to happen. It can be covered through the town's insurance. The attorney, just in an abundance of caution, says anytime you have a lessee, you want to recommend that you get this all risk liability coverage. I'm recommending that the risk is low and that since it can be covered under the town's insurance, that we waive that requirement. But I just want the board to understand that should, on the off chance that something catastrophic happens, it goes on the town's insurance then to the building itself and not the food pantry's insurance. If we don't have the builder's risk, basically is what it is.
So
Building risk.
we're waiving, it's going to be in the contract and we're going to waive it for them?
We would take it out of the contract.
So we're waiving it out of the contract.
Correct. The workers' comp language stays in because that's a standard contract term. And then there's actually a form they can fill out if they're eligible or not. And they have to make that determination if they're eligible for a waiver of it. But I just think the risk is low of, you're talking a space that's less than 300 square feet plus storage. And to make them spend the extra cost for the policy, which we haven't priced out yet, but I know it is an additional cost, that takes away from the services that they're providing to the community.
So why wouldn't we leave it in the contract and waive it for them? Because in 5 years, it could be all different people. And maybe then you would.
No, this
be
is
able to
their
get this
specific
into their
contract. Because in this case, the workers' comp has to be in there by law. This does not have to be in there.
Okay. Just looking for, an answer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there's 3 areas that currently is the food pantry. Unfortunately, it's not one room.
Right.
This would cover all 3 areas regardless. So somebody goes into the closet and pulls down something and gets doinked on the head with a can of tomatoes.
So they're already covered. They do have insurance.
Mhm.
We're already covered if somebody gets injured. This would be actual physical damage to the
building.
property.
Okay.
Which I think the risk is low. Don't come in with, a buzzsaw or something ridiculous, please.
And the people who run the food pantry, they have any concerns, questions?
Yeah, they were very concerned about the addition of that policy and the expense that it was going to add. So
when do you expect to hear back from legal?
So legal, I already talked to and asked them, and they just said, just make sure the board understands that if,
Okay.
Something does happen to the building, it would go on the town's insurance. And so my ask to you is, can I continue on with getting this finalized? Because the food pantry didn't want to move forward until we got an answer on some of these insurance questions. So because there is a bit of a low risk, but there is a bit of liability, I wanted to discuss it with you first before we moved forward with waiving that or taking that provision out rather.
Scott, do you have any questions?
I am fine removing that fire and casualty insurance clause.
He's fine removing the fire and casualty clause.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No,
Okay.
I would move a 5-year lease with the Berlin Food Pantry, removing that one clause.
Motion was to move ahead with the 5-year food pantry lease, removing the clause.
For the all risk. Yep.
And
Okay.
up for all risk, correct? I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Scott got a thumbs up.
Great. And if there are any other further issues that come up, I may have to bring it back. But I will let you know. Hopefully we can work it out with those major concerns resolved.
Okay. And then we're moving on to the FY25 budget.
I thought we would do some low hanging fruit, if you will. Some of our smaller budgets that really haven't faced significant changes. The only one, and I think I mentioned this before, is we were combining expenses from the select board budget and the town administrator budget into one. So what I did for you is I highlighted the line items that I'm asking the select board to consider voting on this evening, and that is on the sheet that is in the file. And I was going to pull it up on the computer, and of course now I can't because we're all hooked in funny.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the next one we practice so that we can pull this up so the public we can all see the yellow lines.
Yeah.
I want to come down to the front. I'll show you the yellow lines.
And if I share my screen, that's not going to let anyone else see it, is it?
Oh, it should actually let you share your.
Do you
I
wanna
don't know if
try,
it would let you
Scott?
share your screen, Scott.
What's the worst that can happen? You go max headroom again and you turn purple.
There you go. Oh, look at you, Scott.
Can you make it a little bigger?
He's working on it.
There
There
you
you go.
go.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you, Scott.
Now, if you drag and drop the people down to the bottom right corner, just
Yep.
drag in the black, then you should be able to see the top line.
Which I've already done.
There you go. We'll hide the people.
You're,
Right
you're,
behind
you're
the
a few
people.
minutes behind me.
All right, people are on the bottom.
No, they're on the bottom. Well, it's better than not. So, I don't know if anyone has specific questions you want to ask. Some of these are very straightforward, so I'll leave it to you for questions. Yeah. Or anything you want me to explain.
Line 17, the audit, is that June's
Yes.
audit, the town accountant audit?
Nope, that's the town's audit. The
Okay.
one the FY audit that we do every year.
Okay.
That's what you call June's audit,
Oh,
correct, isn't it?
is it? It's not a town accountant audit, it's a town audit.
It's a town audit where somebody comes in and they look to make sure that,
Right. June used to be in charge of that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, she still oversees that
Okay.
process. Yes,
yes, so that's June's audit.
got it.
So
Gotta learn the terminology.
Are we looking for motions?
Scott, I'm sorry, what was that?
Are we looking for motions?
We're just looking to see if anybody has any questions in the yellow before we move. The town report, I know that
Yes.
it's dropped a little over $1,000, and unfortunately, there's still tons of boxes that are floating around where they're printed and we're not using them. So for that amount of money that we're looking at of $2,500, how many reports, hardcover reports are we looking at?
It's really hard to say because we have to get quotes and they go up every single year. But the idea was to cut out about a third or 30% of the reports because we still have two giant boxes of reports floating around. So we did a
From 2 years ago.
corresponding 30% cut to the budget. And the hope is, to try that. If there's still too many floating around, we can cut it back more again next year. But I think at least cutting almost $1,100 out of that is a good start.
And if there's multiple people that are registered voters living in the same household, it's just one, correct? Town report that gets
These
mailed?
don't get mailed anymore. So this
Okay.
is just, they're available around
For
here,
pickup.
library, and at the town meeting. They're also going to be on the website. And if worse comes to worst and somebody wants a hard copy and we ran out, we can print one. We'll have a PDF file of it.
It just won't have a pretty cover. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
Well, you
about-
snooze, you lose. No.
Well, unfortunately, the days of print like a newspaper are just going the ways of,
Everything's
don't need it.
going electronic.
correct.
So we're doing only one salary,
What line?
building inspector.
Yes, the rest are mostly boards and committees. And also know you're doing the moderator salary and the select board salary.
Okay. But I mean departments.
Oh, for departments, yes, I'm sorry, it's just the building department that is done.
And it's only a 2% increase
So we're doing a 2% cost of living and then
for everyone?
for everybody.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was 2 or 2.5.
We did 2%,
Okay.
with the possible option of rediscussing going up. At this time, though, I really think we need to stick with 2% and looking at how bleak our new growth is. and where our budget is falling right now, if there is the possibility of revisiting it, I'm happy to do so.
Okay.
And then the reason the part-time wages are going up, is there was also a market rate adjustment in that line item for the part-time assistant in that office.
And why are tax title expenses going down by $5,000?
We are spending a little bit under $10,000 a year on tax title, so there's no need to continue allocating that much to that department. That's consistently over the last several years. So might as well allocate it somewhere else where it needs to be.
The data systems, the expenses, is that actual equipment, or is it equipment and services and software?
It's a whole mix. So it's our contract with CM Geeks. It's our website. It's purchase of computers. It's replacement of any equipment that breaks. It's charter. It's the Google Suite, Gmail. I have a whole spreadsheet too that I can, show. You can share it with you guys too if you need to. But the nice thing is we were able to level fund it because some of the computers are coming off their lease, and we will be probably having some come back on, but we were able to absorb a little bit of that. Let me just see what the decrease was in the.
Does it include copiers too?
It does include the copiers.
Okay.
Sorry, let me just pull up that budget so I make
'Cause
sure
that's
I'm
leasing
saying the
too.
correct
Yeah.
thing.
Have we talked to anybody else but CM Geeks? I mean, do we float these around?
I would like to do an RFP for IT at some point. That's on my to-do list. It's always good, like we were just saying, to go out and get prices. I have to say though, they are very inexpensive
Mhm.
compared to what I'm used to seeing out there.
And they have
Okay.
a fairly good reputation,
Mhm.
so.
Well, do you have any more questions, Peg?
No, those were my main ones.
And Scott, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm good.
No. Okay. Are you ready to make that motion? Scott?
I am. One second. Yes.
Looking for
So
something.
I am ready to move all the items listed in yellow as select board recommendation.
So the motion was to move forward with the recommendations highlighted in yellow. I will second that.
Okay. Then we'll put this to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Congratulations, we've officially kicked off budget votes.
Mm-hmm.
And this will go to finance,
Goes
correct?
to FinCom, yep. And there will be more. We'll keep pecking away at it every week,
All right.
every time we meet.
And so we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is discuss facility study and the UMass study.
Yes, so this question came up at the coffee talk, and I'd like to start with the UMass study, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did speak with Victoria, the COA director, about this, and excuse me, the UMass survey, essentially the goal of it was to help us understand what understand what older adult residents need and want to remain in Berlin throughout their lives, to get more programming for seniors, and to increase communication and feel more contacted through the town. So to that end, the town did already apply for a digital literacy grant, which was the first step in implementing that plan. So we are in the process of doing classes through at least calendar year 24 into 25. We're starting with an introduction to digital literacy grant. So those classes are being held now. Basically, the goal is to get people comfortable, particularly seniors, comfortable with using electronic devices and the internet to be able to do their business, whether it's signing up for health insurance and signing up for different things online, because a lot of things, and as we found out during COVID, had online signups. And there are a lot of people that aren't comfortable using devices. So it's a great class. Victoria has a video that's been put together about it. They had their first class at the beginning of this month and have gotten some positive feedback, and they're doing another round of intro classes starting in February. If you need some information on that, you can contact Victoria at coadirector@townofberlin.com, or you can give a call over to the offices and we can get you that information. We are also planning on having a class in March on Town of Berlin media. That's going to focus on Zoom, the Town of Berlin website. So we should get some interesting feedback through that, and My Town Government. So that will actually help with a focus on how to get access to municipal resources. And then there are additional classes being planned around internet safety, different types of technology, library resources, and finding and using technology to remain safe in the community. So to date, Victoria has also purchased some mobile hotspots and Microsoft Surface tablets for the public to use. And the Powderhouse News, Facebook, and flyers will continue to have updated information on what is going on with the digital literacy grant. And we will continue to use the data and feedback that has come through that community survey to drive grants that we're applying for, which is a large part of what we intended to use that study for. And then the facilities study.
Well, wait, before you go on.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'm curious, we always hear that the senior population is about 30 to 40% of the town, which I get, which unfortunately I am now one of them. But I'm curious, out of that 30 to 40% of seniors, what is the percentage that actually use any types of programs? Because without the ones that you just mentioned, the only two that I'm aware of, because I see the sign on the door at the town office, is Tai Chi and yoga. So what other programs are being offered? And more importantly, back to one of Scott's questions on the town website, are 10 people using it or are 500 people using it? So I'm just
using
any type of services that
from
are,
COA.
yeah, I mean, I've never been contacted. I've never been reached out to. As a senior, I have no idea what's going on in town for that. I hate saying that as a senior. I know I am.
There's really a limited amount of outreach we can do, unfortunately, with one person. That's part of the challenge right now. It's more kind of folks coming to the town and what we're able to put out there for information rather than like going to individual people or like cold calling people, or we don't have like a what you would call a caseworker that goes out and tries to make contact with people in the community. That's part of what Victoria is actually talking about in her supplemental funding request for FY25, is having an additional person that could actually do outreach as opposed to having people come in and being able to get them when they come in. But I am actually getting a date for her to come present before the select board to answer some of those questions and give an overview, and I'll get some data on that as well.
Yeah, because I'm curious. I see what other towns around us, like Clinton, I'm on their COA newsletter. Now I guess I'm really old. I get it from there too. And I just look at all the stuff that they're doing and the outreach that they have. And I understand COA in Clinton is a lot bigger than we are. Clinton is a lot bigger than we are. But just some of the stuff, I'm wondering what information out of that study allows us to work with a Northborough, to work with a Clinton, to work with a Hudson that have well-defined programs, or are we trying to start from scratch and do our own, kind of getting back to your point earlier about regionalization? What can we use for efficiency and effectiveness from other towns without reinventing the wheel?
Right, leverage their resources and
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Okay.
I think they do an awful lot. I think people just aren't aware of it.
Yep.
Well, that's part of it too. So
I mean, there's the
they
Shine
do. I mean,
program.
And when people have asked me, I give them Victoria's number or her email, and they contact her. And I had a friend who was looking for a place to move from her big, huge home, and looking into Northbrook Village or any of the other ones in the areas.
Well, I think that's just it. I mean, if this study is showing that people are asking for, then somehow we need to get out without hiring another person. We need to get out. Here are the programs that are available for people. Because as I said, as a senior, I don't know of any. I'm not going to say that anymore as a senior.
Well, we can get.
Well, my question was, how was the turnout for the literacy classes? I mean, what are we talking about? 5 people? 25 people?
Let me get that information for you.
Okay. you know, they're still doing their meetings the last Tuesday at 4 o'clock on Zoom.
I work,
At 4 o'clock?
yeah, I work till 5.
Oh, I thought you could make your own hours.
Not all the time. Not all the time. I kind of pushed that envelope as far as I could get. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I mean, it's only an hour.
We'll get her on an upcoming agenda too. I think there's some really valuable services to be had when you have a social worker too, because there are a lot of confidential matters that I know of that her and I have discussed that she helps people with that can't be discussed in an open public setting where people call and have various issues ranging from mental health to hoarding to I can't sign up for my insurance and I need to give you some personal information about whatever issue I'm having and I can't connect with a doctor. You know, there's a lot of that kind of counseling side of it that goes back and forth. And the fact that you have the social services along with the COA means she can help seniors, but she can also help other folks in the community on the social services side of things too. You know, I think it's a great resource for us to have, and I'll get her on a future board agenda soon so we can have that conversation. If that works for you.
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Sure. And then, I don't know if you want me to talk about the facilities study, what the next steps are. We are having the,
Or where we are.
where we are. Yep.
Yeah.
So, the board created a facility study group. The group did have an initial meeting. There was some really great feedback that was given. Peg led a great conversation at that meeting, and we've given the feedback to the consultants. This is just on the building assessment piece. There's also an energy audit component to it and a space needs assessment. So that survey is going out now and we're getting it back. So what we're going to do is we're going to get revised reports back, and then the feedback we will be seeking from boards and committees, we'll give them about a month to do. So I don't want to rush the process by any means. I want to get it done and keep it moving. But I want to give people plenty of time to comment on it. So Leah expects, I believe she said midweek this week till the end of this week, she would have those revised second drafts for us that we can then broadly distribute.
Who's doing the second drafts?
The consultant, Leah.
And she's
She's
doing
with
it from
Bureau
the
Veritas.
information that,
So the facility study group did an initial
Right.
review of the data
Okay.
to look for like glaring errors,
Right.
initial suggestions, some ideas on, you know, what should be changed. And then we're going to be getting a second draft that's going to be going out broadly to boards and committees with a form also asking them for feedback, which
And
I
us
think
too?
is important. Yes, you're included. You're our board.
So Scott, last week you had asked for a summary
Mhm.
of by building, by time frame. And I put that together this weekend. Only took me about a half an hour. I didn't really see the money, the need to spend money with the consultant to do what I could do. Looking at a report, are there any other tabs of data that you would like to see, whether it's energy usage, oil usage, or is the one-page summary of by building, by time frame of immediate, short, near term, medium, long, and
and it
Total.
looked okay to you?
Yeah, I wanted to know if that covers Scott's concerns. Because that's taken the data that's summarized from the individual
Yeah.
reports and put
And
it
that-
into one.
yeah, all that was pulling up every report and just finding the page.
No, that was a very useful spreadsheet.
Okay, is there anything else that you want on it that you found in any of the other reports
No,
that I
'cause
can just keep?
if I wanted,
popping in
if I wanted
tabs?
detail behind the numbers, I could just go to the report for that building.
Yeah.
And
The
so
only
this
one
is
that
good.
I had a hard time trying to find were the South Common buildings, but so you've got the Brown Barn, which is coming down, and I really didn't, or potentially coming down. So I really didn't want to put it in and muddy the waters for that. So if you count the number of buildings and then count the reports, you're going to be one short because South Commons is not on there. Okay,
I'm fine. They got me what I wanted.
cool. Rather eye-opening.
And the numbers are accurate.
I have, they're pulled from the report. I haven't
Yep.
reviewed them
Okay.
all, but I
Yeah,
would
they're just a
presume.
cut and paste.
Okay.
I think we first wanted to make sure we had the right parameters, that Scott was
To make
looking
sure that
for.
there wasn't anything else, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are we moving on? Or are we still?
I'm all set. I don't know.
Okay, Scott, did you have any questions about, our last subject?
No further questions.
Okay,
That was good.
all right. Then we'll move on to the draft list of annual town meeting articles.
Okay, so what I've done is rather than just make a whole separate list, I thought that I would put it in, just drop the articles into the warrant, just to save myself from double duplicating efforts. It's a big warrant, and we still are open for receiving more articles at this time. We are up to approximately 32 articles at this time for May town meeting. There's just been a lot going on. That does include one citizen's petition, which we received on Friday. I wanted to share that information with you. It's a zoning petition that I now have, so I can share with you what it is. The request is to have the current limited business zoning on 180 River Road West rezoned to residential agricultural. This parcel of land consists of 29.17 acres of land. And if anyone wants to look it up, it's map 70, block 29, lot 0-0. And the individual putting forward this agreement has submitted the required signatures. They're being confirmed by the town clerk's office, but as such, I've put a placeholder on the warrant for that.
And,
It's the
and would
last
there
one.
be a?
Second to last. Yep, 31.
And would there be a recommendation from planning board or anything like that on it?
My understanding is planning board did not want to take up this article, which is why she submitted a citizen's petition.
Oh, okay.
And it's to do what, Kristen? Because I'm just looking, I mean, I know that you
Change
just
the-
Oh,
had the placeholder in
Change the
here.
zoning.
From limited business to residential agricultural at 180 River Road West.
Where is that?
You know where
Is it the pit?
No,
let's
do you
see.
know where the what is it, the 1870 or 1799 farm? You know, with the,
On the left side,
it's across, be the other side of the street.
where the cows are?
Well, you can describe much better than I can. It looks like it's in between River Road West and Clarendon Road.
Is that, there must be Hudson, maybe. Clarendon?
Clarendon,
That's not Berlin.
Clarenan. It's sitting back in there, not far from Boundless Adventures.
Is it on that side of the
It's
street?
on the Boundless Adventures.
Oh, well, maybe it is the pit then. I don't know.
At
That's-
least I just Googled it. That's what came up when I Googled
That's
it.
not where they wanted to put the cottage housing, was it? In the pit? That's the pit. That area.
I don't think so,
No,
because
they
planning
wanted to
board's
put it
still
on
talking
lot
about cottage
6.
housing.
Boundless. I
Nope.
believe.
Planning board, you're talking about Worcester Sand and Gravel?
Yeah,
That's
they-
where they want to put cottage housing, and planning board's still in conversation with that.
Oh, that is the area?
Yeah,
That's
because
my
they wanted,
understanding.
they want a
That's
bunch of
not-
houses, so there's no way that it would just fit on lot 6.
That's
It's
not
the pit.
this.
Okay, so do you know if that's before the pit, or I'm still trying to picture where 180, Scott, do you have any idea where 180 River Road is? And you're on mute.
That's a challenge with citizen petition.
I have the same map that Kristen has up on her computers. It
I can
doesn't-
pull it up on the assessor's map. It'll just take me a minute, but
So it's just to rezone it?
from limited business to residential agricultural. And it's a citizen's petition. The citizen would speak to it. And I don't have any further information than that.
Hmm.
So it literally goes on the warrant exactly how it's submitted by the
Yeah.
citizen. And typically you don't take votes on it by the boards in town. You would just, it goes right to town meeting floor.
Well, I
and
guess I
town meeting
just was
takes a
looking
vote.
for,
Why it bypassed planning?
well, why they're looking to do this? Like, I know they'll explain it at town meeting, but it'd
Yeah.
be nice to
So
hear
we'll have no information
beforehand.
before they stand up.
I can see if Eloise got any more specific information and I can let you know.
Or maybe, can you check with Tim Wheeler or,
Can we find out
The
where that
chair?
road is? Well, I guess we're all
Yep.
taking a ride down to find 180 River Road.
I'll see what more additional information. Like I said, it just came in actually late Friday.
So it has to be before Entwistle, correct? Because Entwistle's Hudson.
Yes. It's between Boundless Adventure and Brook Lane. It's actually between Boundless Adventure and the 1790 farm.
that's the farm I was trying to tell you.
Oh,
1790 farm. I'm saying 1870.
all right. So Brook Lane, I'm coming into Berlin. Brook Lane is on the right. Boundless Adventures around the corner.
Yep.
And
And it's that spot in between.
It is vacant land according to
All right, that's
our
not what I'm thinking
software.
then.
I bet it's right before. It should be on the other side of the street, though.
Yeah.
1790.
That, is that road the back way?
It is
You get
Worcester
the-
Sand and Gravel.
So it's the pit.
Strange. Okay, so let me see what I can find out then. When I pulled up the property record card, it says Worcester Sand and Gravel.
Well, then they're trying to change it so they can do residential.
No, to agricultural.
Residential agricultural.
So it can't be commercial.
Right.
Let me see what I can find out.
All right.
And you said that the planning board was still looking into potential cottage housing, or is that?
That's my understanding. The last conversation I had with Tim Wheeler, perhaps it's changed since then. He and I usually sit down once a month, so it's been about a month since I've talked to him.
And
Well,
how many
because
acres?
they,
I'm just a town
you know, when we were kind of, it was kind of a potential to do it on lot 6, I thought. And I hadn't heard anything otherwise.
All I've heard about the Worcester Sand and Gravel site, I don't want to speak because I might be mistaken, but I thought there was a discussion about cottage housing going on at planning board. I thought that was the site. And I thought it was with Mark Rhodes as developer.
Correct, because you're
Okay.
talking like 30 to 50 houses, so there's no way that 30 or 50 houses are gonna fit on lot 6.
No,
No.
well, not especially now, because I think there's more wetlands there than there was years ago.
I don't want to speculate though. Let me get some more information.
How many acres-ish?
29.17.
It's gotta be the whole pit.
So just shy of 30 acres.
Okay, all right.
Well, unless it's somebody that's in conjunction with the housing they're, thinking of putting in. Anyway,
So the other articles are relatively standard. I don't have the planning board's articles in yet at this time. I don't have the CPA articles in yet. The only other one I'll call your attention to is a request from Assabet Valley Regional Vocational Technical School to establish a stabilization fund. So that's Article 29 on page 11. They have requested that all of their member communities establish a stabilization fund pursuant to section 16G.5 of chapter 71. And the purpose is to create and support a capital improvement fund for the district. They are also requesting that we start funding that annually, and it's based on assessment and numbers as well. So the cost this year would be just over $9,000.
okay.
I think they're trying to plan for the future would be my
And do you know
understanding.
if all the other towns that support Assabet, that they also have been presented with this?
Yep, all of the member communities were asked and given what their amount would be requested to put, what the requested amount would be to put in this fund. And it is based on that per pupil assessment as well, just like your regular assessment is.
Right.
So ours is relatively small.
It goes up and down though.
Yeah, the 9,000 though, they're not looking to put a lot of money in. I think they're looking to build it and invest it over time.
And
I don't think it's an unreasonable request.
no, I don't think so either. But is it because we have a small amount of kids and it fluctuates so much? how are they going to look at that? And
They'll do it on an annual basis.
well, I wondered if they would like average 3 years or something. Because that's one of the things that we talked about when we did try to figure out what Berlin and Boylston's payments for Tohoto would be.
It's a good question. We can make sure we ask them. They are actually coming before the FinCom on February 7th because we had an opening that evening. So we will make sure we get some more information.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want them to tell us it's 9,000 and then we're sitting here this time next year and they say, it's 25.
Well, there's two
And then-
steps, by the way. So there's the creation of the fund. All that the warrant does is establish the fund. Then it also has to be approved. The amount that you want to put in, it has to be approved on the budget.
Okay.
So the creation of the fund is a one-time thing at town meeting, and then you choose annually on the budget. The rest of them are pretty straightforward. I don't think there are any really unusual articles at this time, just a lot of the items that we've been working on.
Okay.
So that's your draft list for now. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions.
No?
Closes February 12th, correct?
Closes February 12th.
So people have 2 weeks-ish.
Yep, and we sent out a reminder last week to everybody.
Okay. Then I think we're going to move on to board questions on agendas and liaison updates.
Got anything, Mr. Scott?
No, I missed the housing trust meeting because that day just disappeared in sickness. What is the status for town reports?
Status for town reports?
Status for town reports. They are due at the end of this month, so we will let you know.
Keep you posted.
That's right. Which is in 2
Um,
days. I don't have a
We-
list yet, but
We will have on an upcoming select board meeting. I'd like to go back to the retiree health benefits.
yes,
we might
I have that on for
local
this
ready
next
to go.
Monday. We have an IAC meeting this week. And I've pulled together some of the information you requested, the board requested, and we'll be discussing it at the IAC and then bringing it to the board next Monday.
We have leases with the schools for this using town property. We now have a lease with the food pantry for using town property. Who else uses town property that we should make sure we have written leases with?
Did you hear?
Yes. Who else uses, well, we
I
should
think the
have
VFW
some
uses-
type of agreement for the property that the flagpole sits on and the tree that we decorate across. I keep calling it the common because I think of it as a traditional New England common, but it's not the church property.
It's church property.
Yeah, so we should have some kind of agreement with the church because if we're going on that property and something happens, we should, for liability
Or should
purposes,
we
have that
even be
agreement.
going on the property?
That's
We had
on,
that discussion a couple of years ago
Right.
with separation of church and state.
it's
Right.
on the list.
And what did we decide?
So we weren't putting anything up on the tree because it was
And then why did we do that this year again?
not it. I don't know. But no, we decided because there was a discussion where it was church property, but town resources were being
Right.
used. And so
So we need to
I think
sort
it was
that
when
out.
I just hopped on the board, so about 6 years ago that we
Right.
decided. No,
I wonder if Fred is aware of that.
I think there was confusion with potentially also new people. So we have until next Christmas to sort that out. It's on,
Well,
it is on the
Yeah,
list.
that might
Before
think-
that.
Too.
Yeah, so we don't have to like
Let me
say,
start a summer list. I had a
I-
summer list last summer. I'm gonna add that one to it too.
well, you know how it goes sometimes. You wait until the week before they want something up and then you have to say, nope, we're not doing that anymore.
I think the VFW rents Legion Hall.
and what about Legion Hall? AKA Mold House on Lincoln
We own
Street. It's a town property.
I know we own it, but doesn't the VFW, a non-government agency, rent it?
We have nobody in there right now.
Scott, there's no one in there. I don't think there's anybody.
I don't think there's
anybody
ever gonna be anyone in
years.
there again, frankly.
I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure they're not renting spaces and
Yeah.
No, there's no, it's not open right now.
Just let the-
No,
I was
because
always
I
told we
think even
couldn't
if
do
you
that
look at
building because they rent it.
the building assessment report for Legion Hall, it has like electricity of, I don't know, 2 cents, and oil even less. So it's just a building that's sitting there.
Do Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts rent space in our building? Do we have a
Boy
lease
Scouts,
agreement with
Girl
them?
Scouts rent space? They don't rent space, they have meetings.
In this building, they have, I don't know about the Girl
Just Boy
Scouts,
Scouts,
just
yeah.
Boy Scouts, I believe.
Girl Scouts, I think, is with Hudson. The last time I
Yeah.
spoke with the woman who runs it, I don't think that they have meetings here.
Okay,
Okay, that was your questions?
yep.
Okay. Peg?
I just had two. One's a clarification. So was wondering, Kristen, and I wrote it down so that I would get it correct. If you could please explain or point to a process or a procedure that exists that can help out residents when they have gone to a board, have been seeking information, they're on an agenda, but the board prohibits discussion on said item.
If it's not on an agenda.
That's-
It's on the agenda. It was on an agenda. So it was basically, I'm coming, you,
Mhm.
I'm coming to you for information. You don't give me information, or you don't allow discussion to happen on this. What's the process?
So the chair doesn't have to allow discussion on any item that's on the agenda. You actually, citizen comment period or public comment period isn't even required. So any board or committee, unfortunately, can or cannot allow it. It is the purview of that board or
Okay.
committee. I mean, if someone has, a specific issue, I can try to assist them, but if it's an elected board, there's really not much I can do. That really relies with the residents, and if they have an issue with that elected board,
Okay.
they have to bring their voice to the
polls.
That unfortunately, that's really what it is. We don't have a recall bylaw for elected officials. And I have literally zero jurisdiction over elected boards and committees. If someone feels that there's a concern about open meeting law, obviously there's state recourse there. And I'm happy to try to help, but there's a limited amount that I can do in some of these situations.
Okay. All right. And the last thing is that I went to a celebration. I don't know if a
Did you
camera.
go?
I did. It was wonderful. The Neshoba neighbors of Berlin, Lancaster, and Bolton, the COA director from Bolton did a wonderful presentation along with Susan Henry. There were many Berlin people that were recognized for the effort that they have put in. Please. Some of look, they gave me a lovely bag because I attended.
Oh.
But it's a great organization where they have some of the services that they have provided. 663 volunteer hours, almost 7,000 miles driven by the volunteers. About 1,500 hours of volunteers receiving calls, 363 services provided. So it's a wonderful opportunity for volunteers. Bob Blair was there, Susan Henry was there, Bob Matag. Apologies if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Matag. Apologies, Bob, on that, but it was just so nice to see these volunteers giving back to these communities. I had an opportunity to speak with a woman who was recently widowed, and she said she didn't realize how much her husband did around the house that she could not do, and reached out to this group, and they came and they helped. Even it says something as, light laundry, planting. One of the gals has, I guess, a great green thumb that she helps out with a lot of the planting around the gardens, things like that, but just to come and spend time. So I don't know. I mean, as I said, the Neshoba volunteers come from Berlin, Bolton, Lancaster, Clinton, Harvard, Sterling, and Stowe. They're always looking for volunteers to be able to reach out, but it was a really, really touching ceremony that they did to say thank you. And the people who were there were the ones who had been receiving these benefits, all volunteer time. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. Again, I don't know what the camera will pick up. But there is a nice brochure on Neshoba neighbors. There's contact information. Kristen, I can leave this with you. If you want it, folks can reach out to me. Susan Henry, who is online as our guest. Well, hi, Susan. She is the president of this organization, so on the board of directors. So you can always reach out to her if you want to help or if you know of someone who needs help. So giant props to Neshoba neighbors for that, for their impact. So yeah, it was a nice ceremony. So well done. And I got an awesome bag. And a cookie. Susan, I don't know who made the cookies, but they were fabulous. So whoever did, thank you. I appreciate that. But you got to give part, it was in the bag.
What was in the bag? Nice.
So it was pretty nice. So thank you for the invitation. And that's all I got.
All right. Well, we do have an executive session. We're going to enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, exception number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or sale of real property, Berlin Memorial School lease. And we will only return to open session to adjourn the meeting.
And we will shut the online meeting down, Scott, and we will call you.
Okay. He said, okay. All right. Roll call.
Keith? Aye.
Hawkins, aye.
And we got a Hawkins eye and a Stone eye.